You know, sometimes life throws you into these epic battles that feel straight out of a blockbuster thriller, where the underdog rises up against the bullies who think they own the world. And let me tell you, this one started with a knock on my door that echoed like the opening shot of a storm brewing over the restless sea, pulling me right into the heart of it all. I'm Alexander Hale, and back then, I was just trying to build something meaningful in Harbor Bay. This picturesque coastal stretch where the waves whispered secrets of old maritime glory. But little did I know that a simple dream would collide head-on with the iron fist of local power plays. It was a crisp morning, the kind where the salt air clings to your skin and the gulls cry out like they're warning you of trouble ahead. When Eleanor Blackwood, the self-appointed queen of the Seaview Estates HOA, marched up to my doorstep flanked by her entourage of clipboard-wielding enforcers, their faces set in that smug, unyielding expression that screams entitlement, and without so much as a hello, she slapped down this ultimatum, demanding I dismantle my commercial pier operations within 24 to 72 hours, accusing me of running a legal business in a residential zone. Her voice dripping with that faux politeness that barely masked the venom underneath, you know? The type that makes you clench your fists but forces a smile, because you can't let them see you sweat just yet. Oh, the irony of it all hit me like a rogue wave, because while they were puffing up their chests, thinking they had me cornered like some small-time intruder, I was holding onto a secret that could flip the entire script. A document so powerful it redefined the rules of the game, the Supreme Nautical Charter. This ancient maritime grant that vested me with ultimate authority over the harbor's commercial waters, stretching out a full 12 miles along the coastline. But I didn't blurt it out right there. No, that would be too easy, too impulsive. And I've learned over the years that timing is everything in these chess matches disguised as neighborhood squabbles, so I nodded politely, swallowed the rising tide of frustration, and decided to play the long game, letting them believe they had the upper hand while I plotted from the shadows. Looking back, it all stemmed from my past life as a maritime lawyer for 2 decades. Grinding away in dimly lit offices poring over nautical charts and legal precedents, all while nurturing this side passion for cryptocurrency mining that, when Bitcoin skyrocketed, ballooned my assets into 8 figures overnight. A windfall that felt like fate's way of saying, "Hey, Alex, time to level up." But instead of splashing out on flashy yachts or mansions that scream, "Look at me," I chose the smarter path, quietly snapping up bankrupt docks and piers through a web of LLCs and shell companies. Each acquisition peeling back layers of history until I uncovered the gem. These waterfront properties came bundled with historical maritime rights, culminating in that supreme nautical charter that essentially made me the undisputed lord of the seas in Harbor Bay. A power I never sought for ego but for preserving the working essence of the harbor against the creeping tide of gentrification. But Eleanor and her Seaview Estates HOA weren't about to back down. They escalated like villains in a slow-burn suspense flick, firing off violation notices that piled up on my desk like unwanted invitations to a party I never RSVP'd to, complaining about noise from my operations that disrupted their precious peace, and even roping in the port warden to scrutinize my permits. Their tactics feeling less like community governance and more like a coordinated siege. You could almost hear the dramatic score building in the background as tensions simmered. Then came the blockade, these absurd residential-only signs popping up overnight to halt my delivery trucks, sparking heated arguments on the docks where voices rose like crashing waves, everyone pointing fingers and quoting rules, until the county inspector stepped in, confirming that federal maritime law trumped their petty HOA bylaws. A small victory that tasted sweet but fleeting, because I soon uncovered the deeper rot. Eleanor had a history of this, having bulldozed 3 family fishing docks and 2 charter boat businesses in the past, operating through a well-oiled machine of economic warfare that squeezed out anyone who didn't fit her vision of an upscale, sanitized paradise. And it broke my heart thinking about those families, generations tied to the sea, now scattered like driftwood because of one woman's crusade for control. As the nights grew longer, the sabotage began, shadowy figures creeping under the cover of darkness to smash my ice-making machines, sever mooring lines that sent boats adrift in the moonlit bay, and inflict over $20,000 in damage to hulls that gleamed like proud sentinels just hours before. The kind of vandalism that not only hit my wallet but stabbed at the soul of what I was building, a haven for honest work amid the luxury facades. My security cameras captured it all, clear as day, or rather, as night, showing Eleanor herself with two HOA cronies. Their faces illuminated by flashlight beams, tools in hand like amateur thieves who thought they were untouchable. And sure, the rage boiled up inside me, hot and unrelenting, urging me to call the cops right then and watch them squirm. But I held back, breathing deep, reminding myself that patience was my greatest weapon, gathering more evidence to build an airtight case that would dismantle their empire from the foundations up. Because this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about justice for the overlooked, the families who'd lost their livelihoods to this unchecked greed. And yeah, there was a twisted humor in it. Picturing these prim and proper HOA types fumbling in the dark like bumbling villains in a comedy of errors. But the stakes were too high for outright laughter, the tension coiling tighter with every creak of the damaged piers. The climax was building. You could feel it in the air, thick and electric like the prelude to a thunderstorm over the ocean. And it all came to a head at the emergency meeting of the Bayview Yacht Society, where Eleanor stood at the podium like a director calling the shots, rallying the crowd with her impassioned speech about expelling the commercial blight. That was me. Her words painting me as the villain invading their serene enclave, and the audience nodded along, murmuring approvals that stung like salt in a fresh wound, their faces a sea of privilege blinded by her charisma. But I sat there in the back, heart pounding yet steady, my briefcase at my feet holding the ace up my sleeve, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And when she called for a vote to oust me, I rose slowly, the room falling into that hushed anticipation you get in those pivotal movie scenes, and with a calm that belied the storm inside. I opened the case and unveiled the Supreme Nautical Charter, explaining in measured tones how it granted me sovereign control over all commercial maritime activities along those 12 miles of coastline, rendering their HOA edicts as toothless as a shark without fins, the gasps rippling through the crowd like waves hitting the shore, their smug certainty cracking under the weight of undeniable truth. And just when they thought the shock was over, I delivered the knockout punch, projecting the footage of the nighttime sabotage on the big screen. The grainy images freezing the room in stunned silence as Eleanor's face paled, her empire crumbling in real time. And I laid out the charges with the precision of a seasoned lawyer: destruction of federal property, interference with interstate commerce, and environmental crimes that tainted the very waters they claimed to cherish. The irony so thick you could cut it with a knife. And in that moment, the naysayers shifted, whispers turning to murmurs of outrage, the tide turning as the truth washed away the lies. But the real twist came when the federal agents arrived, badges flashing under the fluorescent lights like beacons of impending doom, diving into the investigation with a fervor that uncovered layers of corruption I hadn't even fully grasped. The port warden caught taking bribes to overlook violations, the county commissioner manipulating permits to favor the elite, a whole network of protection rackets designed to crush small businesses and preserve the status quo. And as the probes deepened, they revealed illegal chemical dumping into the harbor, poisoning the ecosystem that sustained local fishermen and their families. The kind of betrayal that hit me hardest, thinking of those kids who'd grow up without the legacy of the sea because of this greed. The tension peaking as arrests loomed, my inner turmoil a mix of vindication and sorrow for the community torn apart. Through it all, I couldn't help but feel a surge of righteous fury, bottled up for so long, now erupting in controlled bursts as I cooperated with the feds, providing every scrap of evidence. My voice steady, but laced with the passion of someone who'd seen too much injustice. And yeah, there was a humorous edge to watching Eleanor's facade crack, her attempts at denial coming off like a bad actor flubbing lines in a rehearsal. But the gravity pulled me back, the by-kitch of shattered dreams and polluted waters weighing heavy on my soul. The families who'd been displaced started reaching out, their stories fueling my resolve. The old fishing clans who'd passed down nets from father to son, now forced inland, their love for the ocean a bond stronger than blood. and I vowed silently that this fight was for them. A payback not born of spite, but of a deep-seated need for fairness, the kind that restores faith in the system when local politics fails. Finally, the gavel fell in the federal courtroom, a sound that resonated like the closing chord of an epic saga. With Eleanor and her accomplices facing a barrage of charges: conspiracy to obstruct interstate commerce, willful environmental devastation, vandalism of government-protected assets, and rampant corruption that had festered like a hidden wound in Harbor Bay's underbelly. The judge's voice booming with authority as sentences were handed down. 5 years in federal prison for the ringleaders, a staggering $400. 000 in restitution that would sting their pockets like barnacles on a hull, and a lifetime ban from holding any HOA positions. Ensuring their reign of terror ended right there, in that sterile room where justice, slow but inexorable, caught up at last. The relief washed over me like a cleansing tide, mingled with a quiet triumph that wasn't boastful but profoundly satisfying. Watching them led away in cuffs, their empire reduced to echoes, and in the aftermath, the community began to heal. Those displaced fishing families returning to the docks with renewed vigor, their boats slicing through the waves once more. Charter operations buzzing with life as tourists flocked to experience the authentic thrill of the sea. A revival that brought smiles to faces weathered by hardship and hope to hearts that had nearly given up. We didn't stop at punishment. Restoration became our mantra, teams diving into the harbor to purge the toxic sediments. Replanting seagrass beds that flourished under careful nurturing, the ecosystem rebounding in just 6 months. Fish schools returning in shimmering abundance, a testament to how nature, given a chance, fights back with quiet resilience, and economically. Harbor Bay blossomed, waterfront eateries thriving on fresh catches, eco-tours drawing crowds that boosted local shops. Property values climbing not from exclusion, but from inclusive growth, proving that commerce and community could coexist in harmony. This saga set precedents rippling far beyond our shores, becoming a landmark case in maritime law that prompted other coastal enclaves to scrutinize their HOA overreaches, sparking a cultural shift where the Bayview Yacht Society embraced the working harbor vibe, blending luxury with labor in a tapestry of mutual respect, reminding everyone that true power stems from knowledge of the law, not bluster. That federal oversight trumps petty local fiefdoms, and that safeguarding the environment while fostering economic vitality isn't a zero-sum game, but a balanced voyage. In the end, as I stand on my pier watching the sunset paint the water in hues of gold and crimson, I reflect on the deeper lessons. This wasn't just a personal vendetta, but a stand for the unsung heroes. The families bound by love and legacy to the sea, against the injustice of those who wield false authority, and while the payback felt justified, earned through patience and proof, it underscored that real change demands not rage, but resolve, turning one man's quiet rebellion into a beacon for communities everywhere, a closure that mends the fractures and sails us toward brighter horizons. But now, as the credits roll on this tale, I have to ask you, what do you think? Was my strategic silence and calculated reveal the right path? Or should I have confronted the injustice head-on from the start? Does true justice always require patience, or can impatience spark necessary change? And in the gray areas of ethics, where does community control end and individual rights begin? Especially when the environment and family legacies hang in the balance.